Hi, my name is Matthew Baldwin, and thanks for joining this discussion today on innovation within the retail industry. We've assembled a panel of industry experts who will share innovation trends and current use of emerging technologies. There's a lot to discuss, so let's get right into it by introducing our panelists. First, I'd like to introduce Siddharth Pandey. He's Vice President and Director of Integration. We have Greg Pavlik, who's a Senior Vice President of Artificial Intelligence and Machine Learning, and Mark Rikmilovich, Senior Director in charge of Blockchain. Gentlemen, thank you so much for being here. We really appreciate it. First question I have really is along the lines of data management across the retail industry and how Greg in particular, you're looking at managing the volume of data that's coming and some of the different trends that you're seeing. We're having point of sale data, we're having supply chain data, we have all sorts of data coming in. Can you kind of give us an example of how we can do this with the technology that you're working with?
Absolutely. This is one of the key problems for retailers. There's so much information, so much data on the one hand. On the other hand, in order to take advantage of it and exploit it, you have to be able to bring it together and make it consumable. The traditional approach that we started with historically was use data warehouses. It turned out we reached a point where there was just too much data to go into a single data warehouse. Then we started to develop a concept called a data lake. That was initially based on a technology, an open source technology that was derivative from some of the back-end systems of large web properties called Hadoop, Apache Hadoop. Hadoop allowed users to put data in large data lakes at scale and start to ask questions from that data, mix lots of different kinds of data, not just relational data, but relational data plus non-relational multi-structured data sets, bring them all together in one place and start to ask questions and get more insights about the customer. From a solution perspective, it was a real game changer for the industry. The problem is Hadoop is very hard to operate. It's kind of an unstable platform, and the more data you put in, the more unstable it got. And so a shift then, the third generation shift, was to move to cloud-based data lakes. So now we have customers who are using Oracle Cloud infrastructure. They're putting their data into cloud storage, and they're able to scale it without having to pay for the pain of operating it. We operate the cloud storage for the customer. The customer has the benefit of now having these data sets that grow and they can combine, they can work with and get new insights for their users. So it's been a real shift in terms of not only the ability to take advantage of the data sets, but the ability to ask new questions, but also the ability to operate it effectively and relatively cheaply. So the cloud has been the latest game changer for retailers when it comes to managing quote unquote big data. Now, once you get this data coming together, the next problem becomes how do you keep track of it? How do you know what you have? How do you know what's going to be effective, what you're allowed to use, what might be restricted for privacy reasons? So a lot of retailers now are starting to look at the problem of data governance for the data lake. And those generally entail cataloging the data, looking at lineage, understanding who's allowed to use it, who owns the data, what kind of applications can be combined to respect privacy. And that's the sort of the latest wave of technology where Oracle's investing and working with retailers to open up these retail data lakes, all with the goal of offering increasingly personalized experiences for customers. Because retail's gotten super competitive, right? It's now there's, everywhere you turn, you've got large scale online retailers. The game-changing hook for retailers today is to make sure that they can get a very personalized experience into a customer so that they engage them, they keep them engaged, and they're able to take them through not just a single sale, but multiple sales over and over again.
Thanks, because I think the real drive, what the business, at the retail side, the business wants is to say, how do I engage my customers much more effectively? Siddharth, how are we supporting that when we have multiple systems of record, multiple data driving real-time decisions for the customer? How are we approaching that from an integration perspective?
That's a great point, Matt. As Greg mentioned, right, one of the challenges retailers face in current time is they want to offer personalized experience to their end users, right? At the same time, they need to innovate really fast, right? Because the entire industry is disrupting, right? Like you have online retailers, they are coming up with different experience, and then you have brick and mortar stores that they are trying to compete with, right? So I think, so I run the integration platform, and what we see day in, day out with our retail customers, the need to provide a real-time view of your entire supply chain. Like, you want to make sure that if you have a product out there on your website or in-store, you are able to do proper stock management. And all these things become really key. And that's where integration platform fits in really well. We see environments where our customers are offering loyalty apps, like online apps for offering products through a very personalized experience on mobile phones, right? And they are seeing an uplift of around 250% just in revenue through this new engagement model. So I think overall the industry is changing rapidly, and two things really matter in this space, right? How can you offer a personalized experience, and how can you innovate faster?
I agree. I think clienteling to your customer as they come in the door, as they're on your website, or the multiple properties that you have, to be able to make it much more effective to be able to transact the overall sale, I think is a key thing. Now, Mark, you're seeing trends in terms of actually supplying the stores, and how is blockchain facilitating that from a operations and logistics perspective in terms of goods provenance?
Sure, absolutely. We see a lot of interest in being able to actually integrate not just your immediate suppliers, but all the way down to the supply chain. If you're talking about in the food industry or food and beverage industry, all the way from the producers from the farms through multiple aggregators and multiple processing facilities and companies, all into the retail store. One of our recent customers is using blockchain to trace provenance of the extra virgin Italian olive oil to ensure that, in fact, they can show to their customers, speaking of personalized experience, that this, in fact, is properly sourced, comes from appropriate locations in Tuscany and so on, and they can trace all the way through the pressing plants, bottling facilities, distribution chain, warehousing, into the store, exactly the provenance of the product. That is going to be, I think, an increasing trend where people are going to be interested for certain brands in seeing the entire provenance chain. Whether it's, things like olive oil, we're seeing that in honey industry, actually, with bee honey project that people are trying to collect and ensure that, in fact, this is organic honey and all of the information associated with particular beehives. In fashion industry, it's provenance of the leather that goes into making footwear. There is a startup actually in Germany we're working with that's providing that kind of tracing capability on a blockchain that is going to be used by a number of footwear brands. The other aspect that we see also in supply chain is ethical sourcing and sustainability, sustainable farming, sustainable production, and so on. And again, they need to know exactly where things are coming from and ensure that all of the information associated with the sourcing, the sustainability reports, certifications, etc., is available as part of the brand compliance. Right? So it's not just enough to check box and say, okay, we're compliant with this particular regulation. Now the brands want to actually see, show me the history, show me the records that in fact indicate everything has been done properly from the origin all the way to the store. And it's impossible to maintain the data if you have to do it through, paper records with red signatures, or people collect it and ship it in Excel spreadsheets. By the time your supply chain gets 5 or 10 deep, it's impossible, right? So blockchain solves that problem of keeping those records online, linking them across multiple companies. That's really where it comes in. The reason you use blockchain instead of, let's say, a centralized database is because you want to be able to link records that come from a number of different companies, a number of different organizations, and you want the trustability and immutability that it brings along the way to ensure that whoever's going to be looking at it at the maybe point of sale, somebody scanning the bottle, and they can see all of those records from 5 or 10 different companies. They can trust those records, and they're all linked properly.
Thank you. So to be able to trace everything from beginning to end. And by the way, where can I get that olive oil? That'd be awesome.
Oh, absolutely. I think there are some stores here that carry Bellucci brand. It's been in the news recently.
And also, I think, Greg, and also to Siddharth, the other question, the question I have for you is, it's not just the customer, but it's also the associate inside the store as well, to making sure that they have the correct information to be able to talk to their customer and being given real-time information about what's happening, in the store and how they communicate with their customer. How do you see that kind of analytics capability or something to that nature, that insight that you can give?
Yeah, that's a great point. It is about personalization, but that personalization is partially the customer's direct experience, maybe through interacting with the website and so forth, but interacting through humans. And the best mechanisms to extract that data from an analytic perspective from the retail data lake are typically tools that can scale to the arbitrary size of the data. And there are very few and far between. Oracle, having a long history in data management and analytics, has actually been investing quite a bit to extend the open source big data ecosystem in our cloud environment so that we can do real-time analytics against those very large data sets. So if you're asking questions about the customer, you can ask those questions directly from the data set, get accurate answers, and communicate in real time with the customer, right? When you're interacting as a human or when you're interacting through machine interfaces. The other interesting point to this is that a lot of recommendations, whether they're communicated through a website or whether it's personal interaction, are going to be mediated by artificial intelligence, right? And the advantage with artificial intelligence, unlike traditional segmentation, where you approach the data with a notion of the questions that you're going to ask in advance, or the ways in which you expect to slice and dice the customer base, machine learning kind of figures that out for you. Gives you the ability to approach the data and in some sense learn what your data knows and help guide you into the right questions and the right interactions with the customers. So that machine learning and artificial intelligence layer over top of the data lake becomes even more critical for the retail segment as they work to engage these customers and keep the customers active, purchasing from them and not getting the attention of another retailer.
And I'd say, Siddharth, if we have these new, basically what you're building are new systems of record, actually, from the data lake.
In many respects,
it's a new system of record, and then interacting with the existing systems of record. How we got to pull all that together, right? So that if I'm going to build a chatbot for my customer, how do I build a chatbot based on new and
that's a very valid point.
New data.
So what we see here is with mid and large scale retailers, they want to adopt new technology, right? They want to offer personalized experience, but with these kind of customers, you see an environment where there are a lot of on-prem investments, where they have legacy applications, and they are also adopting new SaaS applications, right? And that's where application integration platform that we run it becomes really important for our customer base, right? On top of this entire integration, they want to offer experience through chatbot, where like if you're a store manager, you can quickly see like the stock code. Basically, you can figure out like whether a specific product is available in a particular location or not, and also find out more about your end user, right, or end customer. So giving a complete customer 360 view. Greg also pointed about that. That becomes more and more relevant for our customers than ever before, and that's where I think the two key pieces that we provide within our product is the entire support for hybrid integration, where you can connect SaaS applications to on-prem applications and run chatbot with all the data in the backend, right, to offer a personalized experience. And the second part is you can also streamline your processes within your organization through process automation, RPA. RPA is another trend that's catching up on like fire. It's about robotic process automation. We can discuss more in depth later on about it.
Okay, thank you. I want to say thank you very much for being here, Siddharth, Greg, and Mark. I look forward to having and continuing this conversation, and thank you very much for joining us today, and we look forward to seeing you in the future. Have a good day.